Italia!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Milenistas 360. And if the title looks familiar to you, it's because we're doing it again. Reason being is that my lack of technical ability in streaming has actually caused us to make it sound like we were talking in a nightclub. So for those who are familiar, is the loud blazing music from those videos. Yeah, bad on my part to not find a way how to mute the
It
videos
was
while
so good it
talking.
needed a sequel.
Yeah. Or maybe there's too much content. We decided to do it again. But this time we got a new guest to this. So welcome, Nico. So
Thank,
yep,
thanks,
Nico.
guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming, Nico, and also as always with Shane in Kenya. And yeah, do we again have another show with you? Hopefully without any club music. Just talking purely about Milan and how become a part of our lives. And again, the same topics like what we spoke a little bit about, but from I guess a tactical perspective. So yeah, Nico, glad to have you on board. And yeah, really going through what's happened in the past games, and of course the new joiners to the team. But just to kick it off in terms of having that tactics and looking at how the team has actually performed very recently, even though it's against the CRC side. If I can pronounce the name correctly, Lumizane, Lemonade, Lemon Squad, however it is. Apologies to the team, but yeah, 7-0 is a thrashing. Just to start it off, Nico, how do you think we looked, and do you see anything different than what you've seen since Pioli took over in terms of how the approach was? Because there were many new players, but do you say that they were also organized slightly different? So
Yeah,
your
from
thoughts
what
on
from what I saw some clips on it on YouTube. From what I saw, it was interesting seeing Pulisic playing on. I think he played on the left wing during
that?
this
Yes, it
game,
is.
correct? Um, and he played well. I think what I saw, I like this. So it was the chemistry between the players were there, which was surprisingly nice to see. Considering it was the first time out on the pitch playing in a competitive game. And I don't take too much into the preseason. As long as the players are healthy, they don't come out with any major injuries. That's all I care about at the end of the day. Because what Luminazzi with their Series C team,
Yep.
I think some of the fans were expecting more goals during the game. I guess something to what Bayern Munich did to that one team. I think it was 25-0, some crazy
Did
score
you
like
see
that.
this? Sassuolo were playing someone and they beat them like 22-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
As,
think
So
that's.
as
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
imagine,
Shane. Yeah,
imagine like as an act of mercy, if you're the referee, you just call that off in the 75th minute, wouldn't you? You just go,
yeah,
all right, guys.
you
You
would
know?
think so. Yeah, what do you take out of losing 22-0 or winning 22-0, I should say? You don't take
Like,
much out of the game.
no.
No,
No, other
but
than there's
back
going to
to
be a sacking.
Huzzy's question. I like what I saw on the pitch. I mean, the tactics, the way Pioli might have played might have been a little bit different. I think the formation was different as well from what I saw that we usually play. But he's trying new things. It's the time to try new things out in the pitch during this time of the year. So yeah, overall it was a good showing from the team.
yeah, okay. So Shane, I mean, yeah, following on from that, because yeah, as Nico mentioned, we didn't have Liao there, and we know the way that Liao plays. Yeah, so he identifies the space behind the defender. Ultimately a one-on-one against that wing, and he usually gets past them. Yeah, without any problem. But what we saw the other day, and this could be a glimpse into what happens if we do rotate and Pulisic does start on the left. This could be a glimpse of how things might play out. So how do you see the dynamic or chemistry, considering that Pulisic, yeah, he had a few assists, and with a young striker, Colombo getting minutes up front. So that again is maybe a sign of things to come. What were your views on the game?
Yeah, like it's really hard to read into this. I mean, and look at, you know, it. It's best not to overanalyze it. There was a couple of points where we did get cut open relatively easy, which was
Yeah,
very concerning,
that's true.
right? So even though it was 7-0, you know, against the Series C side, but I mean, you have to give them some, you know, some bit of credit. I mean, they're just back after holidays, and you know, some of the players are new, and there's still a bit of gelling that needs to happen. But yeah, look, it was, you know, it was what was expected, really. Um, Interestingly enough, I know we're going to cover this in a bit, maybe a bit later, but I think an interesting point for me on this is a lot of people are talking about Pioli going to 4-3-3, but then if he goes to 4-3-3, I think we're really going to be stretching it in terms of, you know, quality in midfield, right? Because if you think about it, at the moment, let's just say we don't know what else is going to happen on the Mercato, right? But we could be looking at potentially Krunic, which is great, obviously. But we're looking at Reindeers and we're looking at Loftus Cheek, right? But then you look what's behind them, right? And you have, what is it, Povega, an injured Benacer, and then you have Adley, maybe. So, I mean, I don't think 4-3-3 is the answer based on lack of quality depth in the midfield, but, you know, it could be proven wrong. But in terms of that game, though, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think a good. What I'd really like to see tomorrow is how badly we get battered by Real Madrid because we're playing our B team. So for the most part, based on early reports, it's not really going to be a very strong starting 11. So I'm really interested to see that game. Real Madrid are going to be feeling like what looks to be a pretty stacked squad, right? Full of starters. So that's the game I'm really looking forward to. But this game has just gone. What do you take from it, really? Series C side 7-0.
Yeah, but like you mentioned,
Yeah.
our defense against the CRC side, it didn't look that great. And I remember that moment where I don't know whoever it was from that squad that had that header and it hit the crossbar. So do we still have this, defensive frailties in the back, and what can be done to fix them? So one of the things that everyone keeps saying, everyone maybe except me, is that they miss Cassie. Maybe both of you have the same opinion that the loss of Cassie was actually something big because you could say he almost was, and he did have the times where the ball recovery or he helped to cut off that attack because with his physicality he just put enough pressure. I mean, the games that come to mind are actually against Inter, yeah. So when Lukaku was on his run, all Cassie did was just lean into Lukaku, throw him off balance, and essentially Lukaku left the ball behind, and Cassie just recovered it and passed it along back to us. But just to pose this, I mean, from a tactical perspective to Nico, is that what do you think can be actually done if we still carrying over the same defensive frailties or the weaknesses without defense, we're not getting any new defenders. That's what I think at this point of time, or for the rest of the season. But do you think that having that 4-3-3, and are we then expecting that two out of those three might be expected to help out a lot more in the defense?
I would think so. I think maybe lost his cheek with his physicality, his stature, and Reindeers does have that ability. I mean, he's known to be a little bit more physical. So I'm hoping Pioli gets him motivated and start playing that way as well. I think that's the thought behind it.
Okay.
But we'll see. Like I said, obviously Kessie was a big thing that we missed last season, obviously. But I'm thinking with the new signings, maybe Pioli has something in mind to change the way of playing the game, possibly.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, since we're at it, let's talk about the new signings, how we expect them actually to, in a way, because they should transform the team. So let's begin with Christian Pulisic. So he came from Chelsea. You might say that he's a little bit known for his injury record, and that's something that fans are a bit fearful of, because we've had players that we expect big things, but if they can't play, then what can we say? And when they come back, then period of adjustment, it's just not great overall, especially to if we're having a bad run of games and we need that creative spark. So Pulisic, I'll start with you, Shane. What do you think his contribution will be, especially considering that he's played at the highest level? So with Chelsea, I think they won the league with him, if I'm not mistaken. I know they won the Champions League
I
when
know
he
they
was
won
in
the
the squad.
Champions League, the league maybe not, but yeah. But he does have a lot of like serious quality experience under his belt. Um, I can really understand the signing because it makes sense on a lot of levels because there's serious quality in that player, right? But outside of the quality as well, you're also going to sell an awful lot of merchandise over in the US. So for monetary reasons, it makes sense as well.
For its a balance
Um,
sheet.
for the balance sheets, right? So, but it does make a ton of sense. What I'm really fearful of though is looking. So if you talk to a Chelsea fan, they will all say the same thing. They will say Pulisic's problem was he would get 3 or 4 games under his belt, playing relatively well, getting better all the time, and then he'll get an injury again, and then he has to restart and restart and restart, right? So, uh, and yeah, sometimes I know Milan Medical they were a bit better this year, but I think well they were a bit better for the second half of the year.
Because
For
they
the
got the
first
new
half
guy
of the
in.
year though, yeah,
They
they
have,
got the new
yeah.
guy in, yeah. But but the first half of last season was a bit of a nightmare. So you can kind of imagine if we're bringing an injury prone player into this squad, there's a couple of unknowns there. But if he does get a good chance and a good run, and I'm hopeful that he will, and I'm hopeful that he won't get as many injuries because he's playing in a league that is not as physical, right? It's not as aggressive, right? So I'm hoping he does get that freedom and he gets a bit of, he doesn't get basically destroyed and put in a wheelchair by Milan Medical. Assuming those two things though, yeah, he's a great signing. Makes sense. It's going to add a lot of quality, and yeah, I really want him to work out because did you see the interview?
I
That
did.
I that was like the interview that he did with I can't remember her name, but he seems like a really good, like grounded, humble guy. I can see why he's the captain of the US team because he's someone that you'd actually look up to. So yeah, I hope it works out for him. Just a bit worried about the injury record. Let me just close my door.
No problem. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, just posing the same question to you, Nico. I mean, are you optimistic about Pulisic? Because
I
by
am.
judge from the game, yeah,
So
the quality in the kid.
so overall, so just to go what Shane had just said, in terms of his injury. So I don't know his medical history off the top of my head. But from talking from other Chelsea fans as well, or EPL fans, they've told me that a lot of his injury issues are a little bit overblown. They're not as serious as they really are, which is good, which is a good thing. And he's fairly young, so his chances of recovering from those injuries or getting stronger over time, you know, is a good thing. It's probably something he might get past with time, right? Um, So I think that's not big, that's not much of a big issue, as much as people are making it out to be. I think it might be a little overblown, his history of injuries. So I think we'll be okay in that sense, especially since we have a new medical team as well, our personnel. Hopefully that they do a better job overall with the players, keeping them healthy. His overall skills, the kid brings a different skill set. He's dynamic on the ball. He likes providing service to his teammates as well, especially with the American team, which is great too. And he could play multiple positions. He could play cam, which we need a cam, that position. And also if we need a left winger to kind of give Liao a break, better, or right wing. Supposedly that's another rumor. Even though his left foot is pretty weak, he's could play the right wing as well, which is a step up from what we had last year as well. Anything's over from DHL and salad makers. And in terms of marketing, not just selling jerseys, but bringing more Serie A fans to the fold. There's going to be a ton of kids out there, I can guarantee, wanting to watch Serie A this season just because of Pulisic, which is great for the league and for the clubs like myself, Milan Club, Phoenix. more people coming out to the bars.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, you can't like because all of the signings, right, that they've made, I can't fault the logic behind them. See what I mean? It's not that. I think I'm kind of in the boat where I'm not getting too overhyped or excited, right? Simply because I was there for the Yang Hang Lee days. I've been there for way longer than that, but I was there for the Yang Hang Lee days, and in my mind, I remember seeing the signings that they were making and going, oh, for the most part, on paper, all of these signings make sense. We're off to the races, you know. And I think most Milan fans will tell you, if they're honest about it, they would kind of say, oh, at the time when we were buying, Bonucci and Andre Silva and all these players, they all made sense and they're all a jump in quality, but we all know how it turned out really in the end.
It's always a gamble, Shane, right? When you're signing your
Mm,
players, because even though
mm,
can perform on the pitch from other teams, um,
mm,
can they perform in Milan with the badge, that historic badge on their chest, that weight of the badge, the pressure of playing in Milan, in front of Curva Sud, the fans, um, a change of culture, language, being away from family. That all takes a role, and I think that's what killed CDK last year as well. I think he wasn't ready to make that move because he's never played out of country before. I think that's something we need to look at, these signings that we have as well. Have these players played in different leagues before, different countries? Like
Yeah. Good
Pulisic
point.
has. He's played in Germany. He's played in England. So he's used to playing in different leagues, learning new cultures, languages, etc. Right? And I'm guessing Okafor maybe not so much. You think he's played in the Belgium league for a while, right? Okafor? Or is it
Okafor
Austria.
not the
Austria.
Belgium?
RB
He's
Leipzig. Is it Leipzig or
no
Salzburg?
Salzburg.
Salzburg.
Yeah.
Salzburg.
Salzburg.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I got him
Yeah.
confused. But we'll Sal like we'll see. I think that's something we need to look at. Hopefully, players like Giroud, leaders like that, Theo will help integrate those players into the team this year as well. I think that's what really
Mm.
needs to be done.
Just a quick one. This is for you, Hosni. Do you find, right? I want to hear both your answers on this, so Nico as well. But Hosni, if we switch to a 4-3-3 and we keep CDK, do you see CDK playing? And if so, where do you see him playing? And the last question, bonus question, is do you actually see if he does play in that position, do you think there'll be an increase in his performances from last season?
Well, I'll start. Yeah, I mean, CDK, there's still talent in the kid. I mean, just because you had a bad season doesn't mean that you're starting from zero, essentially. But in the 4-3-3, and he can do this because I've seen it. And if you still remember the highlights, not from his Milan days, of course, he can still play striker. That is a possibility. And because the bar is not very high, he can also do the right wing. So I thought those were the reasons why we brought on CDK, because he can do so many roles and he's generally quite good. Being Cam, I think will be the preferred. But if we drop into the 4-3-3, then he just has to find a slot in the other position. But definitely as a forward in some form. But sorry, your question about whether your second part of the question, whether he can be any good.
Yeah, yeah. So like where do you see do you see him, so if we switch to a 4-3-3,
Yeah,
could you actually see him operating from, let's say, the midfield, for instance? And if so, like, do you think that he actually be functional in that role?
yeah. I think from the midfield, even he can do it. So
Hmm.
he wasn't terrible. I mean, if you see his first few games when he joined, yes, they weren't any goals or assists, but can you really say he's been terrible? I mean, I can point out some other much worse players, but I mean, the kid's shattered. So to me, it's just more of a morale thing. But once he's got that under
Hmm.
wraps, it's just a matter of replicating what he's already done before. I mean, yeah. But sorry, before I pass out to Nico, big shout out to Paul KB. I see you in the chat, and we have a question from
Typo.
Lab Gorilla or John that will come in a bit. But yeah, passing out to Nico. I mean, what do you think of CDK? Whether he can survive in a 4-3-3?
Honestly, what I saw CDK's first performance last year against Bologna in August. That was my first ever Milan game that I ever went to, and he had some flashes of brilliance. You could see that he was linking up with Liao and players like that, and he had a good performance. After that, it went down to hell. It went down just to shit after that, for various reasons. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe Pioli taking his confidence away, playing time. But over time, what I noticed with CDK, not just his inability to take players on, he was afraid to take them on. He was afraid to take chances and lose the ball. And secondly, he was losing the ball way too easily. He was getting just, out muscled, and we were losing the ball in key spots on the pitch. That's why, honestly, I don't want to see him in the midfield unless he proves otherwise, because the midfield is the heart of the team. That's the heart of the between it. If you have a weak midfield, you're going to lose the ball, and the other team's going to score easily. I'd rather see him either at striker or at right wing. But if it plays out the way I think it is, if we're going to have Giroud, Okafor, and if we keep Colombo, we're going to have 3 strikers, right? There's no space for TDK at that role. Maybe right wing might be the place for him this season, I think.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just
current market value is 22 million.
Oh, his?
I couldn't see new management just leaving him on the bench for that somehow.
Yeah.
Well, unless
No.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, every dollar counts. But sorry, yeah, Nico, go ahead. I just want to ask John's question. Well, his question
Sure.
is that to you is that, do you think Pulisic can be transformed into a full-time cam if we stick, of course, with the 4-2-3-1?
I think so.
Good question.
I think he's played in the U.S. team, if I'm not mistaken. That role a few times.
I thought in the World Cup he played on the left wing more than as cam.
He did. I'm saying, but in other games too, not just in the World Cup, but I believe in just like at games here in the United States, like the Gold Cup, and not even the Gold Cup, whatever Nations Cup, whatever cups they got going on here in the United States, so many tournaments. But he has the ability to play in cam as well. He has the qualities for that, because he's very unselfish with the ball. He has very good vision. So.
Can I ask a controversial question? And it just crossed my mind, and I'll ask you, Shane, and Nico as well, because you've seen highlights of both, yeah. So we've seen highlights of CDK and highlights of Pulisic. Which one would you take in his prime? In his peak?
So interestingly enough, I think we've gotten Pulisic in his prime.
No, but
I think CDK isn't there
if
yet.
both were firing on all cylinders, because CDK might come up as a brand new player this season. I mean, it could be his time to shine. Which one do you actually prefer?
So if we're talking about in their prime, and we're guaranteed that they'd both be relatively injury free, right? Oh, it's going to be force of balance sheets for me, because it just makes sense. No, it makes sense to have Pulisic, because I think Pulisic has proven a lot more so far in his career than CDK has, right? So even if they're both in their prime, I'm just for monetary reasons, right? Even though they could both explode, I mean, Pulisic all the way for me.
Okay.
But playing wise, I don't know. But look, I can't exactly say CDK all the way, because I mean, we've no guarantee that this isn't his prime. We've no guarantee that him being at Bruges wasn't his best season.
Yeah, sorry. I think let me rephrase that. When they're in form, yeah. Thanks, Paul, for making that correction.
When they're in form.
Yeah, I don't mean in the sense that in their prime, like when they're the best time in their career, but when
they're in form.
Yeah, when they're in form.
It's going to be Pulisic.
Okay.
Because he's proven to me already that with other clubs that he's nearly unstoppable when he's playing well.
Okay, how about you, Nico?
Well, Pulisic for me too. Pulisic, because he's the leader of the U.S. team. He's become the face of U.S. soccer, which is huge. He's got a lot of pressure on him, and he takes it on pretty well. I mean, CDK, who is he on Belgium?
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. He's supposed to be the next Kevin De Bruyne.
He's supposed to, but he hasn't shown. Yeah, but he hasn't taken. He hasn't taken that upon himself yet. He hasn't done that yet. If he takes that mantle, becomes the face of Belgium football, then I could say CDK. But right now it's Pulisic.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to believe, but isn't Pulisic only 24?
Yeah, he is.
He's a young kid. He was playing on the national team when he was 18.
He's 24 years old, so he's only 2 years older than CDK. when you
But
think about it.
yeah, but the level of experience he has, I mean, it's way beyond CDK. I think.
Way
Yeah,
beyond. I
Yeah.
mean, CDK. The only reason why people made such a big deal of CDK is what he did against PSG in the Champions League. He had that.
shout out Paul KB's comment there. CDK is talented, yes, but he lacks confidence and personality. I'm saying Pulisic, he showed more, 100%. He showed more cojones as well. I think even the way he holds himself and answers questions in press conferences, you can tell that he is a leader. Like, I don't think CDK has a leader bone in his body from what we've seen so far.
And I just wanted to add, when we play Mexico against U.S. soccer, U.S. plays Mexico. Mexicans hate Pulisic right now, especially a couple of things. Last year they beat him 2-0, and when he scored the second goal, he lifted up his shirt and he had 2-0 written on his shirt, and he put it in front of
That's
them. Yes,
that should be legal.
that's
I
what
think
kind
that
of
should be legal.
that's what kind of balls, cojones the kid has. He has that bravado. He has that grinta, whatever you want to call it. He has it in him.
And I called
Which,
him humble earlier on. Oh dear. That's good though.
yeah, the kid has something in him, man. He's a tough kid. He's definitely he's much more personality than CDK has for sure.
Paul
Okay.
KB agreed. You can tell he hasn't shaved a day in his life.
So let's go on to the other player that I think we're about to get over the line, and that's Samuel Chukwueze. Again, sorry if I pronounce it wrongly. Yeah, he seems to be the deal, especially any player that is dedicated or a talented natural right winger seems to be should be the answer to all of our players on the right hand side. So, Nico, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the highlights.
Yeah,
It looks like
I'm
he's on
surprised.
fire.
Yeah, listen, honestly, I didn't think we were going to sign a right winger this Mercado. I thought maybe we were going to wait for the next one to fill up all our spots that we needed. So I'm happy to see that we're signing a right winger. And from his highlights, the kid is dynamic. I mean, listen, before teams can only focus on Leao, right? Let's just shut down Leao. Now, if you have a right winger now, as a coach from the other team, an opposing team, you have to make a decision. Where do you want to focus your defense on? Do you want
Might
to
still be
focus
the other.
stopping? You want to, yeah, but then it frees up the other side completely.
Yeah.
And before, when you freed up the right side, Macias you weren't afraid of Macias scoring on you or Makers. Besides the Napoli game, when he got possessed by Maradona in the bathroom, you know. So overall, it's like I believe every other Milan fan out there in the world. It's exciting to see a real true right winger that's young and scary to have on the team. Somebody who brings fear into defenders.
Okay,
So it's
but
yeah, I'm happy with it overall.
in terms of the characteristics of a right winger,
Sure,
and this is my personal opinion, yeah, we need a player on the right that is not afraid of the man in front of him. The thing that I saw, like
correct.
Samu, is like as soon as there was a guy, no matter who he was, it might even be like a fan who ran onto the pitch. He seemed to be a bit scared. He didn't want to make a
Well,
mistake, and seemed to be like back pass all the way to the defenders.
yeah, I
Is that
think
your
because
thought?
he was limited. He was limited with his ability. He only had one or two moves. It was the same moves over and over again. If you saw what he did with the ball, he didn't try anything new. He wasn't creative with the ball. He's like, let me do a step over. Let me do some outside scissors, whatever move. Oh, that didn't work. Let me kick it back to my midfield or to back to Calabria and restart the offense.
Speaking
Yeah, go ahead.
speaking of the right wing, so Lab Gorilla brought up a good question. So he said, follow question. Do you think Pioli last season underused Adley and CDK? All right, well, that's one. And does it indicate anything for how he'll integrate Reindeer, Okafor, and Romero? So let's talk about Romero in that on the right wing. Do you think that Romero, if he stays and he's not loaned out, do you think that he's going to see game time?
Oh, Pioli does love short people, so
But
honestly, I don't know enough about the kid, so I couldn't really put too much thought into this. You go ahead, Hans.
yeah,
Because he's young. He's only 18.
Yeah,
right?
true.
He's only 18, but he's lining up for the Argentina under 23s, and he's scoring some good goals for them.
I'm gonna go off of what I saw during the game against Lumenza, whatever the team is called. Uh,
Lemonade.
I saw a lot of Samu in the kid. He was on the right hand side. I don't think there should have been any pressure. They want any fans or anything. But the amount of passes back to the center or back to the man in front of him, I thought that was ridiculous. I mean, just take on the guy. I mean, if you lose the ball, then you probably won't make the same mistake again in the same game. But the, I just didn't see it. He had a few good moves. It's too soon to judge, but if I see that again, I'm gonna be close to writing him off. And it's like, please get this kid into the Primavera.
You know what they call him, right? They call him the Mexican Messi. That's a real thing.
Hang on, he's Mexican.
He Argentinian, but he was born in Durango, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he then has beef with Pulisic from the get go.
Funny
Maybe.
enough, I didn't know it was physically possible for an adult male to be shorter than Brahim Diaz.
Yeah, well, if he's
And
18, he
Romero's
still has a
actually
few
short.
years to grow, right?
That's true. Well, if he's going to get his growth spurt, he'll be waiting on it.
A late
That's
growth
it.
spurt.
That's it. No, maybe this is Moneyball, right? Maybe they've ran it through the algorithm and they realize that next year he's going to become an NBA player, and they're just buying him now, waiting for the next growth spurt.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like,
if he's on the grow, I don't know how much of a spurt is going to be, but I don't see him playing keeper as a fourth choice goalkeeper.
yeah,
Not anytime soon.
it's true.
So yeah, I mean, I guess coming on to the midfield, because it's one of the things that, like you mentioned, Nico, is like the heart of the team. So midfield, we've had quite a number of reinforcements. We've got Ryan Diaz, we've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek. How are you seeing those two players? Does it really overhaul the midfield? Because we've had a big loss. I can't say his name because I know some people are going to jump on me, Mr. T or Tunali. Do you think those two players can actually replace slash
It's
form
gonna
the
take
same or
time. Like,
even
I
better?
mean, I know this has been talked to death already, but out there, it's gonna take time for them to build that chemistry, right? Just like what Tonali had with Benny. But that being said, Loftus-Cheeks wasn't a main starter on Chelsea, right? Maybe it was a managerial decision. I'm not sure. So we have to wait and see what Loftus-Cheeks going to bring to the table. But Reindeers, I think he's going to right off the bat. He's going to perform. I think he has it in him. Loftus-Cheeks might take a little bit more time to show his quality out there for us. But it's nice to have somebody's over 6 foot tall in the midfield for once. But I think out of all those two player, Reindeers is going to be the one showing his worth early on for us.
Okay. And the question that I asked yesterday, but I'll ask it again because I like to get a take on it. Loftus-Cheek, who do you think his midfield partners should be? And same thing for Rangers. Who do you think his midfield partners should be?
Because they play two different positions, correct?
Yeah.
I think you could pair those two together.
Okay. So if you play them together, I guess
Yeah, because once I would. Who would give to Krunic?
Me
I guess by default, Benacer
all
is
the
probably
time.
the best.
Yeah, Benny at that point. Yeah,
Yeah.
until when Benny comes back, when he's healthy, it's going to be a while.
But we got Pobega. We got Adley who can do that.
Yeah, I guess Pobega for now because he's physical. Dr. Pobega. Adley, I don't think he's out of prison yet. I don't see him getting on the pitch again. I just think for whatever, because we never got an answer from Pioli or from management why Adley was never played. So I don't think that's going to change. They really give that spot to Pobega. So by default, it would be Pobega, Krunic. And then, Loftus Cheek and Reindeers, because Reindeers and Loftus Cheek, they kind of complement each other the way they play.
Okay. How about you, Shane? I mean, just same question. The third
Mm.
spot. We have Pobega. We got Ali. You can do it. Benacer is not around. Uh, Krunic. Who do you think should have that third spot if those two do play?
This is kind of why I don't think a 4-3-3 is our answer right now. I don't think this Musa kid from Valencia that we're looking at is our answer either.
You mean
Um,
you not
I
Yunus?
don't.
Yunus Musa.
Yunus
Yunus,
Musa.
yeah, Yunus Musa, yeah. I don't. He doesn't reek of having quality to me. I could be wrong. But what's that guy? Is it for Bologna? Dominguez. He's available for 10 million.
His name was mentioned before as well.
I think just for a cheeky buy, I would really, really go for him, and I would put him in if there's a third spot. Yeah, I would nearly give it to him over Krunic.
But our existing midfielders, and I think including Adley
Mm.
as well, they all came from teams that played for 4-3-3. So why wouldn't
I
it be
don't
that
think
easy
Adley's going
just
to
to?
play again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's a tactical question. Nico, you might want to take this. Wh- Why can't we just have the existing players who played 4-3-3 in other teams be naturally their partner? I mean, what's the difficulty
Yeah, I
there?
mean that's no, there's not. It's about how's Pioli going to implement them, right? It's how's the coaching staff how they see it. Because I mean, obviously on paper it looks like the smart thing to do. If they've played in that system before, why not? That should be played here in Milan. It's not like we're playing a different 4-3-3, the same formation, same responsibilities at the end of the day. So, but it's all about what Pioli and his staff see in training. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, I mean, we can, I'm with you. I mean, if they should be able to adapt and play the 4-3-3 here as well.
Okay.
Mm.
So the other player that I really wanted us to speak a bit about, and that's an area that we should reinforce. I'm not saying that we don't have anyone, but Giroud just can't be doing it again. This isn't the way that I'm seeing it. If he plays 38 games, it might be his just his retirement. So Okafor officially in.
Mm.
Yeah, we played against this. He scored against this. So we have a great track record of buying players that score against us or do well against us. Underline Hauger's name. Yeah, do you think that this signing, because what I've seen of Okafor is that he can also do left wing, and just an already stacked left wing that we already have. Uh, do you think he has what it takes to be our starting striker, or to gain more prominence in the team and be the number one choice? Because Giroud, I think we should already be at a level where we try to reduce our dependency on him. Not say that
Well, do you want me to take this or Shane first?
yeah, maybe you could give it to Shane. I know
Give it
Shane.
to Shane. Go ahead, Shane. Take it away, Shane.
All right. So is Okafor capable?
Yeah.
I guess. I think it is a bit of a gamble, to be honest, right? I think there's definitely quality there. You did see what he did when he was playing against us, right? For Salzburg, I guess, yeah. So there's definite quality there. I really think though that we need a number 9, and I think Taremi would have been. Again, I've made the cardinal sin here of looking at compilation videos, and that means I know everything intrinsic about the player from watching 10 minutes on a YouTube clip. But Taremi just looks really, really, really like, I mean, he just looks very unselfish. He can lay off the ball. He can hold up the ball. He's kind of like a younger Giroud. And I
Wow,
think
wow, what a statement there.
That's a big
no,
one.
like in terms of the way that he would slot in, and I think Okafor is going to be slightly different. So there's going to be like I'm looking forward to this season more so because there's going to be a lot of aggression from the team, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressing going on. As to, I hope Okafor makes it. I really do, but ideally more someone that's more suited to the number 9 role to me would have been maybe a better signing.
Yeah, but let's look at the profile for number 9, and this was floated before Giroud came in. We need someone who can with good aerial ability. We need someone who can hold up the ball. Have you seen any of this in Okafor? Because to me, it looks like, if I can draw the comparison, he's more of a like a player built on speed for the counter attack. So he's a big departure to the profile that we've been looking for since Zlatan came. Because Zlatan was all those things. Yeah, he could hold out the ball, wait for everyone to get in position. He could head it. He could do his bicycle kicks. Giroud, okay, he's tried the bicycle kicks. I don't think he scored one in our team yet. So why Okafor then? I mean, Nico, do you think there's a reason behind it other than the fact that he can score goals?
Well, I know Pioli wanted him since Champions League, right? We all know that. He was thirsty for him since we played Salzburg. But you're right. With profile, he's very different. He's not your typical number 9 where he's holding up the ball. Because that's what. Well, how many times do we do that? How many times does Maignan kicked it up to Giroud to try to to get the ball to hold up and wait for the rest of the team to come up, or to turn on the defender, that last fullback. Okafor doesn't have that ability from what we've seen. Like facing the defenders, yeah, he's scary, but his back towards goal, he doesn't have that in him. So am I excited for him? Yes. Pairing up with Chukwueze and Leao, sure, it'll be fun to watch those three do their thing next year. But in terms of having that true number 9, we still need it.
Okay, but then we're gonna have the same issues, right? Because we've seen even in the most recent season, and teams do this, yeah, whenever they're under pressure, especially the lower based teams or the teams in the lower parts of the league, they're gonna park all 11 players into the box. And if Okafor were to play in that game, what are you expecting?
Yeah, that's the thing. I really don't know what to expect. That's something between. That's the difference between our league and other leagues. A lot of teams play low block. They play that very defensive-minded game in Italy, which a lot of other leagues don't. So if Okafor is going to be eye-opening for him, once we play those Lecces, those lower tier teams, and there's 8 defenders in the box, he needs to able to solve those problems, right? And figure out, okay, my 1v1 skills is not going to work here. I got to try something new.
Quick one. Did Cremonese get relegated this year?
I think they did.
Did they? I'm just wondering if they can come back and basically take 4 points off us again this year. Yeah, because this is important to me. I think I have PTSD after.
Because who got promoted again? Who was promoted from Serie B? I forgot.
Oh, I'll have to check that. Yeah.
Oh,
it feels so long since we played the game. That's the.
Yeah, it's been a long
Cremonese
summer.
got relegated, so they can't hurt us anymore. Serie B. All right, hold on. This is a good question.
We got
Serie B.
Frosinone.
Oh no.
Cagliari, I think. Cagliari, are they back? Yeah, Cagliari are back.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, I think you're right, Husney.
And Verona. Will Verona relegate anyway? I can't remember this.
Who's promoted? Frosinone, Genoa, and Cagliari.
Genoa.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're all right. Well, I say that, but yeah, they'll be fucking lining out like prime Real Madrid against us now this year if we can't, break that low block, and we're just screwed again. But anyway, it's a different story.
Yeah,
well, let's hope Pioli. Sure. Go ahead, Ozzy.
Yeah, the question I have is that we've tried the 4-3-3. So 4-3-3 is actually nothing new. We tried it at the beginning of this year. It worked for a while, then it collapsed again. So what do you guys think is Pioli's solution to the same formation with different players? How different are we going to see the way we play? Because the way that I saw the 4-3-3 at the beginning of this year is that whenever we were out of possession, everyone came back to defend. That's what I thought, that we survived those initial games. But when our form started to get really bad, I just didn't see the intensity from the players to really come back and help out. They seem to be like, okay, 4-3-3 on paper, but if you're just four guys behind and everyone else just walking back when we're under pressure. So, what do you guys think? I mean, I start with you, Nico.
Well, that's a
Is it going to be
motivational
different
thing
from
too.
4-3-3?
It's a motivational thing too. Either the player wants to do it or not, and
Uh-huh.
and hopefully it's something that needs to be instilled in those players during training. Is to get them thinking that way and getting on their asses if they're not getting back on defense. Um, that's a really it's about motivation. If you actually want to run back, and I with look, they're all young. Those the front three, they're all young players, right? We put Colombo out there, Okafor, Chukwueze, Liao, even Giroud's pretty athletic too. He still hustles. There's no excuse for them not coming back and helping out any of those players and the midfielders as well, and that goes for them as well. There's no excuse. So it's not about tactics. It's about do they want to get back and help on defense and recover that ball. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay. How do you think, Shane? Is it going to be the same old 4-3-3 performance that we saw, or is it going to be
So I was
re-energized
just
4-3-3 with new blood in the team?
I, I was trying to take the piss out of you in the chat there. I was
I
hoping you'd
saw
seen
it.
it. You might did you? Sorry. No, so the 4-3-3. Yeah, so there was a couple of times last season where we were basically conceding crazy amounts of goals, like Sassuolo and
Lazio.
Lazio, and there's a couple of times where I think, Nico, when you said it's all about motivation, because there was one very scary time in one of those games where Teo just literally didn't even bother tracking back when he lost the ball, and then someone scored a goal because of it.
Yeah, I remember that play. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not good. So I'm hoping with the new blood that's in, it's going to give everyone a boost. Having people, I hope, like Pulisic in the locker room now is going to make everyone take their job a bit more seriously, and understand the badge that they wear.
Well,
So
Shane, I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in really quick. That falls on the captain as well. We need a strong captain out in the
not
pitch.
Calabria.
Oh
Calabria is not the
no!
answer to anything.
That yeah,
Calabria needs to go
that
for me.
if a player's just sitting around and they're getting back on defense, you need a captain to get in their face and yell at them.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Calabria is not really
Moynihan should be
the.
captain. Moynihan should be captain. He's leadership
I
material.
I
Calabria is a
agree.
joke.
He has all the characteristics.
Yeah, Calabria is a joke. I mean, look, put it this way: it's if he didn't have well, I say an Italian passport, but that doesn't mean much in Milan these days. But if he didn't have an Italian passport, he would have been gone long ago. Like he needs to be replaced for me. He's just not that. To get to where we want to go, to be kind of challenging for the UCL, Calabria isn't the answer as a starter.
Yeah, well, I think Calabria's market value within the team has actually risen because we're looking to move on Gabbia. So the number of Italians, I don't know how it can look
That's
on
it.
paper is that okay, if Calabria is injured, we might play several games without a single Italian starting.
Yeah, I know the purists, purists out there, Milan fans, the purists that they want to see Italians out in the pitch, the old school fans, right? Because that was the difference between us and Inter from way back when, right?
Yeah.
But
No,
the
we're more
reality,
international than Inter now.
yeah, but
Put that in perspective.
the reality is either the if we try to get an Italian player, teams they jack up the prices and they say, oh, Milan, you want Frattesi, you want I don't know anybody else out there. Oh, we're gonna jack up the price another 10 mil. So, you know, the only way we could bring Italian players in is through the academy, is through the Primavera,
I
ideally.
mean,
But even then,
look at that. Look at that kid. Was it Retigui? What? Ratatouille? What was that kid? He's a Italian passport.
Yeah, Retigui, I think.
Yeah. So he didn't
Yeah,
he go to? Was it something like? Was it Genoa for 15 million?
yeah.
And when we came knocking, it was like, oh, give us 40 and you can have him.
yeah, that's the way it is.
It's like, and he's going to end up at Juve. for like 20
Wait,
million.
Juve. That's the difference between Juve. Juve, regardless of Juve's corruption, they're the team. They play young kids
They do.
because they have the what is it? The next gen team. The next gen team they play against more. They may play against more stiffer competition than our Primavera team does. And I think Milan's plan is to start a next gen team as well. Same thing as Juve. Because those kids from Juve from next gen, they're ready to step up on the first place team. They're ready to step up to play for the Serie A. Our kids, it looks like when they come and they try out for the first place Milan team, they're not ready to play. They just don't have that quality. And
But
because
there
Yeah.
was
of the
talks of us doing
So,
that, wasn't there? To, like setting up a B team.
I'm
oh, you
sorry,
mean CRC? I think. Yeah.
Yeah, in Serie C,
yeah,
there was talks. There was talks of us
Yeah.
doing that, but that
they
was
sh-
back in what was the guy Gazidis? I think that was back in his time. He was discussing it, and he said it was a good idea and we should do it. And I don't
they
know what
should do
happened.
it
Yeah,
because that means our kids will be ready to step up to once they're ready to be promoted.
But I think it's also the. I know you guys have heard this from me before. It's also the management's patience with kids, because if you talk about the players that young and actually got their opportunities, I'm talking about I don't know if you want to hear his name anymore. Gigio, Calabria, Cotrone, Locatelli. Those were guys that actually were launched by Mihailovic. So if the coach decides, okay, I'm going to give these guys a break and I want to keep giving these players time to develop whatever on the pitch, I think we're going to have that next batch of Italians to really find their places within the team. But let's look at how we treat some of our young players. Where's Daniel Maldini? I thought he wasn't that bad, to be honest, but he doesn't get minutes. He scored against us. He doesn't get minutes. So I mean, why have a Primavera when it seems that joining the Primavera isn't really a path towards the first team, unless you're very, very lucky. Because other than Calabria and Pobega, who else do we see? I mean, we have good potential. We have Chaka Traore. I think Kubis
Sure,
is also ready. And Cuenca, I don't know how you pronounce his name.
yeah.
But do you see Pioli really going up and tell them that, yeah, I need you to start the next game? It's just not going to happen.
Maybe he's not the right coach for that. Maybe that's not his thing.
but remember, didn't who is it? It happened one time this season where we were losing 2-1. I want to say Spezia, but it may not have been. No, we were losing 2-1 to just basically one of the lower teams in the league. And Pioli puts on Lazetic for the last 10 minutes. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's like, at what point does it make sense to you, right, to put on a kid, right, when there's 10 minutes left to go in a game that you need to get points, and this is when you put him on? And we can be 2 or 3 goals up against some teams, and then Lazetic doesn't come on the pitch.
It doesn't
No, the
make
same
any
thing with
sense.
against Liverpool in the
Yeah.
Champions League. You remember Daniel Maldini came on in like the last minute.
Oh yeah,
Ridiculous.
that's just buying time at that point. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh Christ, yeah. It's dude.
No, but that's a question
Some of
I
the
want to
questions
ask
I
you,
think.
Nico. You worked with young players before. I mean,
Sure.
what do you think it takes to get young kids ready to, with that responsibility and pressure to really perform at their best?
It's getting them ready mentally as well. You know, um, not just skill wise, but make sure they're mentally prepared to play. 'Cause once you start stepping up to different levels, the game changes. Not just you know, tactically, but the physicality of the game as well is very important. Can they handle it? And the mental fortitude to perform. And I think Pioli doesn't give those players a chance unless it's necessary. Look, like Chow, he was only given a chance because of injury, right?
Yeah. Same thing with Kalulu, by the way.
Kalulu,
If Gabriel
Kalulu,
wasn't injured, we wouldn't have
Kalulu.
seen.
Before he came to start for Milan, he never played on a first team squad
Yeah.
in France. Who was he? Nobody knew his name, but he just happened. He was lucky enough to get a chance because of injuries to Calabria or center back or to Care.
I think that kind of kicked off a conversation with Eletu. So when they were renewing him,
Okay.
because apparently him and a couple of Primavera players had actually went up to management and said, "Listen, we do not know how promotions work here to the senior team because it never seems to happen."
That's terrible.
Yeah, so they had to. There was a couple of discussions where they basically backed Pioli into a corner and said, "You actually need to have some sort of a way of promoting, talent from the Primavera,"
Because
and
think of it,
that's why Letu signed.
if you're a kid coming up through the ranks of Milan's academies, right, and you get to Primavera, what motivation do you have as a kid? Says knowing your chances of no matter how well you can perform, you're unlikely not going to play for Milan. At least
Just
with
hoping the player
that's
gets injured, basically.
yeah, that's the only chance is like somebody get hurt or whatever, the worst case scenario. It's like musicians when they come out of school and you graduate out of music school, you're looking through the obituaries to see who passed away, the violinist, to get a seat. It's kind of the same thing. It's like looking at the paper. Oh, he's hurt today. All right, here's my chance today. I might get a chance with Pioli today. That's the way it shouldn't work. Because all the top academies speak for Benfica. I just read an article the other day on the Athletic on them. They have a pathway to get to the first to play for Benfica. All right, even though the percentage are low, those kids know once they go through the system, they get promoted to different teams through the academy. They know if they show their worth, they're gonna play for the first place team. Our kids don't have that they don't have it. It just that's what I think that's one thing we need to change as a club as well is looking at the academy as well because our academy is lacking. If we want to, it's way behind like the other major clubs out there.
It's pretty
But
crap for morale as
It's
well when you think about it, because it's kind of like at a certain point you have to ask yourself, well, am I just wasting time here when I could be,
somewhere
earning the
else.
same wage somewhere else? So yeah,
but another glaring issue that I saw, and I'm sure both of you have seen the Primavera games. Our Primavera actually played very differently than our first team, by the way.
I noticed that. Yeah, it's I I remember there was someone had a comment where they said something along the lines of, Abate is doing amazing things with this Primavera team. And then I looked at the table and they were only a couple of points off relegation because basically they went on a good run in the, in the youth UCL. Um, but even when you watch them play, it's no, it's kind of like me on Football Manager 2023, long ball it basically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
It's
they don't
kind of
even play
good.
the same formation. That's another thing.
No, they
yeah.
don't.
So
There's no consistency there. Like,
yeah, you at least play the same formation. You may not play the same way because of the kids that you have on the pitch,
hmm.
right? But at least play a similar system. Because once the kids try out for for the first place team, it's gonna be completely new when they start getting the playbook from Pioli says memorize it. Like what the hell is this? I never seen this before. What do you mean I have to
That's
play
it.
different? I got to play a different way now.
It takes 2 years to read if you're Radley, apparently. Yeah, that book is that big, and it's not just pass the ball to lay out, please, and run. Yeah,
And you mentioned a Betty, right? I think there were. I don't know if there was people were kidding around or seriously. They were mentioning, oh, if
Mm.
Pioli goes, a Betty should be promoted.
No, and I said the same thing as a joke, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
I
think it might
became
have just. I think some people were
yeah.
serious about it.
No, because I said the same thing as a joke, right? And people started summing up, and I was going, "Are you mental?" I mean, I still have PTSD from Abate when he was playing, because if you remember, Abate retired, right, with us
Yeah,
because he
he
was a
did.
perfect banter era player, right? He was great in his early 20s, but then he just got like a rake of injuries and then just became useless. There's a reason why he retired with it and lasted through the banter era. It's because no one else wanted him. Basically, he was pants. I still get PTSD when I see him on the touchline. I go, oh my god, you know what next? Rodrigo Eli or something. Ah,
Well, yeah, now that we're at the hour mark, yeah, just to wrap this up, and I like to thank both of you really for, yeah, sparing your evenings. I think wherever you are, maybe Nico, you're in it's the morning for you, man.
Morning. It's 9 o'clock right now. Yeah,
Okay, it's the
a little bit
morning,
after
and yeah,
9.
but it's great to have this all on three different continents. And yeah, anything else that you guys would like to add before I tie this off? Oh, that's Shane for okay, okay. If not, yeah, thanks guys, and yeah, Forza Milan as always, and yeah, we look forward to the next stream. Please follow us on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, and uh, Instagram. Yep, and our other socials. Even though it's not really updated that diligently.
OnlyFans.
Yeah,
That's coming.
and
Yeah, I
OnlyFans
just
will
subscribe.
wanted to
be
say
dropped.
one thing. I just
Yeah,
before you guys go, I just wanted to thank you for having me on again.
thanks,
No,
Nico, for
thanks,
joining.
It's a
Nico.
good
It was a
time.
pleasure, man.
Same here.
I was a good time.
And we look forward to
Yeah,
having you
maybe.
again next week.
Yeah, next. Hopefully, one day we'll be doing this live in person.
That would be great.
That's
Somewhere.
it.
Let's actually talk
That's
with
it.
the Shane.
That's it.
If we ever made it to the Champions League final, we've got to meet in person, watch the
We
game.
gotta show up. We gotta show up. Yeah, no
All
man.
right.
Honestly, good time. Let's get completely destroyed against Real Madrid because we're playing our B team, but we'll
That's
love it
right.
anyway. And I have to wake up at 5 a.m. now to watch that travesty, which is worse. But anyway,
Okay.
let's go.
That's the dedication of the Milan fans. Well,
That's it.
thanks to all for tuning in, and yeah, Forza Milan as always.
Forza Milan.
Forza
Forza
Milan.
Milan.
Italia!